Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And welcome to another episode of Nufftingz Speaks with your host, Nufftingz. So today we're talking about something that's been all over the internet lately. The whole VladTV and Corey Holcomb situation. And honestly, the more I watch clips from it, the more I realize people are missing the bigger picture. Everybody keeps turning this into a race conversation, a culture conversation, a sellout conversation. But I think the real conversation is about fame, relevance, money, and survival in entertainment. That's what this really is. Now, before anybody gets emotional in the comments, let me say this clearly. I understand why people criticize Vlad TV. I get it. There are things Vlad does that I personally don't like either. Sometimes he comes across overly opinionated on topics he doesn't fully understand. Sometimes he asks questions that feel messy. Sometimes it feels like he intentionally pushes people into controversial conversations. I understand all of that. But at the same time, people also have to take accountability for what they choose to say. That's the part people skip over. If somebody asks you a question and you willingly sit there and tell all your business on camera, at some point that responsibility falls on you too. People act like Vlad is hypnotizing grown men into talking. No. A lot of these entertainers go on there willingly because they know what Vlad's platform can do for them. And whether people want to admit it or not, Vlad TV became a machine. That platform is huge. Millions of subscribers, millions of views, massive reach. Love him or hate him, Vlad built something powerful. And once you understand that, then the Corey Holcomb situation starts making a lot more sense. Now, if you know the history between Corey Holcomb and Ari Spears, then you already know there has been tension there for years. A lot of people remember the old 5150 episodes where things got heated, arguments happened, personalities clashed, and over time it became part of the internet entertainment cycle. People took sides. People laughed. People made clips. People turned it into content. But here's what's interesting to me. For years, people in that space criticized Vlad, mocked Vlad, talked down on Vlad. But eventually, a lot of those same people circle back around to Vlad TV. Why? Because Vlad became the gateway. That's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. A lot of entertainers hit a ceiling. And I'm not even saying that disrespectfully. Sometimes your audience stops growing. Sometimes your numbers plateau. Sometimes your content doesn't hit the same anymore. Sometimes the industry just moves on. That happens to almost everybody eventually. And when that happens, people start looking for another boost, another spotlight, another audience, another pushback into relevance. And Vlad offers that. That's why I don't fully agree with people acting like Corey Holcomb folded just because he sat down with Vlad. No. I think Corey understood the opportunity. Because whether people like it or not, appearing on Vlad TV still brings attention. It still creates headlines. It still gets clips reposted everywhere. It still introduces you to a bigger audience. That's power. And honestly, if we're being real, a lot of people in entertainment would take that opportunity if it benefited them enough. People online love acting morally perfect until bills show up. Yo, eggs cost a fortune right now. Rent is crazy. The economy is rough. Meanwhile, Vlad is sitting on a massive platform, with consistent views and consistent revenue. People notice that. Now, one thing I will say that bothers me about Vlad sometimes is how he handles conversations behind the scenes. There have been moments in interviews where it feels like he casually reveals private conversations or throw people under the bus to strengthen his own argument. And that's why I understand why some people feel uncomfortable around him. Because once people feel like every conversation might become content, truth starts disappearing. And honestly, that's part of why people watch him too. People watch Vlad interviews because they feel dangerous. Like at any moment, somebody might say too much. That became part of the brand. Now, another thing I noticed during all this discourse is how selective internet outrage can be. Certain people get labeled culture vultures. Certain people get called sellouts. Certain people get criticized endlessly. But then other people get passes because they're entertaining, useful, connected, or profitable. That's why I find internet morality funny sometimes. Because the rules change depending on who people like. And even with all that criticism Vlad gets, people still keep going back. Why? Exposure? That's the answer. Now, personally, my issues with Vlad aren't even mainly about race. My issue is more about how confidently he speaks on things outside of his experience sometimes. Like the Canada stuff. I've seen Vlad joke about Canada. I've seen streamers clown Canada. iShowSpeed did it. Neon did it. And I'm sitting here thinking, bro, every country has problems. You're acting like America doesn't have dirty Uber drivers too. Come on now. And as a Canadian with Jamaican roots, I noticed that stuff. But at the same time, I also understand internet personalities exaggerate things for entertainment. That's another important point people forget. A lot of these personalities are performing. When cameras turn on, people become characters. And honestly, I think that's true for almost everybody online. Even me. When I'm gaming, you're not getting Rob. You're getting Nufftingz. That's still me, but amplified. Different energy, different presentation, different tone. And I think entertainers everywhere do that to some degree. That's why sometimes I think audiences forget these are real people playing exaggerated versions of themselves online. Some of these guys probably act differently once the camera shuts off. And that brings me back to Corey Holcomb. Because honestly, I used to watch 5150 all the time. Every week. I thought it was hilarious. But over time, for me personally, it started feeling too negative, too repetitive, too focused on attacking people constantly. And maybe Corey himself realized, I need another lane. That happens. People evolve, people pivot, people chase opportunity. So when I saw him talking to Vlad, I didn't look at it emotionally. I looked at it strategically. And strategically, it made sense. Because again, love Vlad or hate Vlad, he built one of the biggest interview platforms on the internet. And that's hard to ignore. Now, will everybody go back to Vlad? No. Some people won't. Godfrey seems like somebody who genuinely stands on his principles. 50 Cent doesn't seem interested. There are definitely artists and entertainers who keep their distance. But there are also many people who criticize Vlad publicly while still understanding privately that his platform has value. That contradiction is what fascinates me. because it shows how entertainment really works behind the scenes. Views matter. Reach matters. Money matters. Exposure matters. And suddenly morals become flexible once careers slow down. That's the part people don't want to admit. At the end of the day, the whole situation made me realize something. VladTV didn't just become an interview channel. It became a ladder. And when people feel themselves slipping, they climb back to it. Anyways, those are just my thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. Maybe everybody involved is playing a character. Who knows anymore? But let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Corey Holcomb folded? Do you think Vlad is misunderstood? Or do you think people only hate Vlad until they need him? Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Nufftingz Speaks.
Another late night chasing down the light for the grind that Nufftingz has to fight against the voices in the static and the noise, finding my